Well, right before I go on, I'm always saying prayers just to remember everything.
In 2015, Madonna did something nobody expected. After decades of silence, after years of whispers and rumors that painted her ex-husband as a monster, she walked into a courtroom and declared that Sean Penn never laid a hand on her. Not once, not ever.
Why is everyone so obsessed? I'm not obsessed. Age is a number.
The woman who built an empire on speaking her truth suddenly told the world that everything they thought they knew about her first marriage was a lie. But here's the thing. For years, police reports told a different story. Witnesses described scenes that would make your blood run cold.
When a guy shows you a couple of times and all of a sudden you know you have to do something about it.
Right. Yeah.
And he's really a lot too big for you to do something.
A lieutenant who barely recognized her face, hospital visits that were never explained. And then, just like that, Madonna erased it all with a single statement. So what really happened behind the closed doors of that Malibu mansion?
No. Is it ever frightening?
Frightening? Yeah. Sometimes when they're relentless and they never leave you alone.
I have no intention of...
Was one of Hollywood's most volatile marriages actually a love story twisted by tabloids? Or did the Queen of Pop just rewrite history to save a friend? The truth is far more complicated than anyone imagined, and what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about Madonna and Sean Penn.
Listen, all you do is talk about my sex life on your show, so now you don't want to talk about my sex life when I'm on your show.
No, what do you mean? Do you mean...
January 1985. Madonna was already the biggest name in pop music, riding high on the success of Like a Virgin. She was filming the music video for her next massive hit, Material Girl, channeling Marilyn Monroe in that iconic pink dress. The set was crowded, chaotic, electric with the energy that always surrounded Madonna. And then he walked in. Sean Penn wasn't supposed to be there that day. He was visiting his former assistant who worked on the video. But the moment he saw Madonna, something clicked. She noticed him too. In a room full of people fighting for her attention, she zeroed in on the brooding actor with a dangerous reputation. Madonna later told Cosmopolitan that she could picture their entire future together from that first glance, but she played it cool, the way only Madonna could. While she handed out flowers to everyone on set, she personally delivered a single rose to Sean. It was bold, it was calculated, it was pure Madonna. Within weeks, they were inseparable. The paparazzi couldn't get enough of them. America's most provocative pop star dating Hollywood's most volatile bad boy. Friends warned them it was too fast, too intense. Madonna's temperament matched Sean's fire for fire. As she told People magazine, they were so alike they were almost like siblings. That should have been the first red flag. By June, they announced their engagement. By August, they were married. The wedding took place on August 16, 1985, Madonna's 27th birthday, at a clifftop mansion in Malibu. It should have been a fairy tale. The guest list read like a who's who of 1980s royalty. Andy Warhol, Cher, Tom Cruise, Diane Keaton, Christopher Walken, Carrie Fisher. Madonna wore a custom gown with a strapless bodice, pink metallic mesh, and handmade flowers with gold beading. She topped it off with a black bowler hat and veil, because of course she did. Sean wore Gianni Versace. But even on their wedding day, chaos followed them. 10 helicopters circled overhead like vultures. Photographers in camouflage gear hid in the bushes from the early morning hours. Security guards patrolled with infrared binoculars. One Italian photographer who'd been hiding since 1:30 in the morning was dragged out, his photos destroyed. Andy Warhol described it in his diary as being like Apocalypse Now with all those choppers hovering. Some reports even claimed Sean shot at the helicopters the night before. It was madness. It was excess. It was the 80s distilled into one afternoon, and everyone who was there said the same thing when they saw Madonna and Sean exchange vows. You could see it in their eyes. They were completely, desperately, dangerously in love. The kind of love that burns so hot it destroys everything around it. The kind of love that was never going to end well. But nobody could have predicted just how dark things would get. The honeymoon phase lasted about as long as it takes to develop wedding photos. Almost immediately, Sean Penn's jealousy became impossible to ignore. This wasn't normal newlywed protectiveness. This was something else entirely. Something possessive and violent and terrifying. Madonna couldn't have a conversation with another man without Sean spiraling. He saw threats everywhere. Every friend became a potential affair. Every collaboration became evidence of betrayal. In June 1986, less than a year into their marriage, Sean proved just how dangerous his jealousy could be. They were at Helena's nightclub in Los Angeles when songwriter David Walensky approached Madonna. They were talking, nothing more. But in Sean's mind, he saw Walensky trying to kiss his wife. What happened next shocked everyone in the club. Sean attacked him, just straight up assaulted the man for having a conversation. He was charged with misdemeanor battery, pleaded not guilty, but eventually paid $1,700 in fines and got slapped with a year of probation. People close to Madonna said it shook her badly. This was someone she knew, someone from the music industry, and her husband had physically attacked him in public. Sources told People magazine it was the first major trauma for her in the marriage. the first really traumatic episode, but Sean didn't stop. His paranoia only grew worse. When Madonna worked in the studio with singer Nick Kamen on the song Each Time You Break My Heart, Sean convinced himself they were having an affair. Madonna denied it repeatedly, but Sean wouldn't let it go. He showed up at the studio causing problems, making accusations, creating a toxic environment where Madonna couldn't even do her job. The pattern was clear. Sean Penn had a violence problem, and it was getting worse. In January 1986, he was charged for allegedly assaulting a photographer in Macau. Penn's own authorized biography describes how he grabbed the photographer, ran him through the hotel room, and hung him over a 9th-floor balcony. Penn claimed he didn't realize it was a photographer at first, but the damage was done. He ended up in a Macau jail cell. Then came the incident that would define Sean Penn's reputation for decades. In 1987, he was already on probation when he punched Jeffrey Klein, an extra on the set of his film Colors. This time, the consequences were serious. Sean was sentenced to 60 days in jail for assault and reckless driving. He served 33 days. Imagine being Madonna during this time. Your husband is in jail, the tabloids are having a field day, and somewhere in all this chaos, a rumor starts circulating. A rumor so disturbing, so specific, that it would follow both of them for the rest of their lives. People started saying Sean Penn hit Madonna with a baseball bat. The story claimed it happened in June 1987, that Madonna was hospitalized, that she refused to press charges only because Sean was already heading to jail and she didn't want to make things worse for him. Was it true? Madonna wouldn't say. Not then. Not for almost 30 years. But the silence spoke volumes, and the world filled that silence with their worst assumptions. December 28, 1988. This is the date that everything exploded. This is the night that would define their marriage, destroy their relationship, and create a mystery that wouldn't be solved for decades. Madonna filed assault charges against Sean Penn at the sheriff's office in Malibu. When she walked through those doors, she was barely recognizable. Lieutenant Bill McSweeney, a veteran officer who'd seen plenty of domestic disturbance calls, was still shocked by what he saw. He later said he hardly recognized her as Madonna. She was weeping. Her lip was bleeding. She had obviously been struck. The police report painted a picture of absolute horror. According to the official account, Sean had scaled the wall surrounding their Malibu home that afternoon. He found Madonna alone in their bedroom, and he told her that he owned her, lock, stock, and barrel. When Madonna tried to leave, things got worse. Penn allegedly tried to bind her hands with an electric lamp and cord. Madonna screamed and ran from the bedroom terrified, but Sean chased her down. He caught her in the living room. Then, according to reports, he bound her to a chair with heavy twine. The police report stated that Sean was drinking liquor straight from the bottle. What followed was a 9-hour ordeal that would leave Madonna deeply shaken. Penn allegedly smacked and roughed her up while she was tied to that chair. Then he left. He actually left her there, bound and helpless, while he went out to buy more alcohol. When he came back, the abuse continued for hours. The reports claimed he only agreed to untie her after she agreed to perform a degrading sexual act. The moment she was free, Madonna ran. She got in her car and drove straight to the sheriff's office, stumbling inside with her face battered and her spirit broken. Penn was arrested and charged with felony domestic assault. The charges were serious. The evidence seemed overwhelming. But then something strange happened. A week later, Madonna withdrew the complaint. Just like that, the charges disappeared. Days after that, she filed for divorce. This time it seemed final. The marriage was over. Sean Penn's reputation was destroyed, and Madonna's silence about what really happened that night would last for 27 years. The 1990s became open season on Sean Penn's reputation. With Madonna refusing to speak publicly about their marriage, the tabloids filled the void with increasingly disturbing stories, each one more sensational than the last. Each one treated as fact because nobody was denying them. In 1991, author Christopher Anderson published Madonna Unauthorized, a biography that painted Sean Penn as a violently abusive husband. The book claimed he regularly physically assaulted Madonna throughout their marriage. It described Penn as utterly consumed by jealousy, convinced his wife was constantly cheating on him. According to Anderson, Penn's paranoia fueled their biggest fights and often led to violence. The book claimed that after one particularly explosive argument, Penn moved out to live with his parents and started flooding Madonna's voicemail with vile, threatening messages. But the most disturbing story that emerged wasn't in the book. It was circulating through Hollywood like wildfire. People were saying that Sean Penn had tied Madonna up and left her trussed up like a turkey for 9 hours. The specifics varied depending on who was telling it, but the core story remained the same. Bound, helpless, terrified, and nobody, not Madonna, not Sean, not their lawyers, was saying it didn't happen. The tabloids had found their narrative and they weren't letting go. Then there was the SWAT team incident that seemed to confirm everyone's worst fears. According to reports, police received a call about a domestic disturbance at the Penn Madonna residence. When they arrived, they ordered Sean to come out with his hands up. He refused. The police broke windows and stormed the house. They found Sean and took him away in handcuffs. Sean's version of events, which wouldn't come out until decades later, was different. He claimed Madonna called the police saying she was worried about guns in the house. Sean said he was just trying to finish his breakfast when suddenly windows were being smashed and SWAT team members were flooding in. He made it sound like a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. But in the moment, with Madonna's December 1988 assault complaint still fresh in everyone's mind, nobody believed him. The damage to Penn's reputation was catastrophic and seemingly permanent. He was labeled a wife beater, an abuser, a monster, and for years he just took it. He didn't sue. He didn't hold press conferences proclaiming his innocence. He just moved on with his life, married actress Robin Wright, had 2 kids, and let the rumors follow him like a shadow. Meanwhile, Madonna was giving her own cryptic signals about what had really happened in that marriage. Madonna's 1989 album, Like a Prayer, became her artistic statement about love, religion, and personal transformation. But buried among the hits was a song that seemed to tell the real story of her marriage to Sean Penn. Till Death Do Us Part wasn't a radio single. It wasn't performed at award shows, but anyone who listened closely to the lyrics couldn't miss what Madonna was saying. She sang about a tormented, volatile, dangerous marriage, about a cycle of violence that felt impossible to escape. The lyrics painted a picture of dysfunction and pain. I think I interrupt your life. When you laugh, it cuts me just like a knife. I'm not your friend, I'm just your little wife. They never laugh, not like before. She takes the keys. He breaks the door. She cannot stay here anymore. He's not in love with her anymore. He takes a drink. She goes inside. The song was shocking in its darkness, especially wrapped in an upbeat pop melody. When asked about it, Madonna admitted it was drawn from her life, factually speaking, but fictionalized too. She described it as being about a sadomasochistic relationship that can't end, a dysfunctional cycle that continues until death. Then she added something crucial. That's where the truth stops, because I would never want to continue a terrible relationship forever and ever until I die. So which part was the truth? The terrible relationship? The violence? The inability to escape? Madonna wasn't saying. But then came the moment that confused everyone. In her 1991 documentary Madonna Truth or Dare, she was playing a game of truth or dare with her dancers. Someone asked her who had been the love of her life in her whole life. Without hesitation, Madonna answered Sean Penn, the love of her life. The same man she'd fled from just 2 years earlier. The same man police found her running from with a bleeding lip. How could both things be true? How could he be the love of her life and also the source of so much pain? Madonna never explained the contradiction, and for the next 24 years, she maintained an almost complete public silence about the specifics of what had happened in that marriage. She moved on. She married director Guy Ritchie in 2000 and divorced him in 2008. She dated younger men, adopted children, continued to dominate pop culture, and Sean Penn? He quietly rebuilt his career into one of the most respected in Hollywood. He won 2 Academy Awards, for Mystic River in 2003 and Milk in 2008. He did humanitarian work in Haiti. He became known for his intense method acting and his serious dramatic roles. The abuse allegations followed him. Sure, they came up in profiles and interviews, but they became background noise, something from his wild youth that he'd supposedly moved past. And that's how things stood for decades. The baseball bat story, the bound to a chair story, the December 1988 police report, all of it just sitting there, unresolved, a dark cloud over 2 legendary careers. Until 2015, when everything changed. September 2015. Empire creator Lee Daniels gave an interview to The Hollywood Reporter, and he made a comment that would blow up Sean Penn's carefully reconstructed life. Daniels was defending his star, Terrence Howard, who had admitted to hitting his ex-wives. In Howard's defense, Daniels said that Terrence hadn't done anything different than Marlon Brando or Sean Penn, and suddenly he's being treated like some demon. It was a throwaway line in a longer conversation about race and accountability in Hollywood. But Sean Penn wasn't about to let it slide. He filed a $10 million defamation lawsuit against Lee Daniels, and that's when Madonna made her move. In December 2015, Madonna submitted a declaration to the court. It was the first time she had spoken publicly and specifically about the abuse allegations in over 25 years, and what she said stunned everyone who'd been following the story. Madonna stated that she was aware of all the allegations that had surfaced over the years accusing Sean of physical assault and abuse. She specifically addressed the June 1987 incident, where tabloids claimed Sean struck her with a baseball bat. She called those allegations completely outrageous, malicious, reckless, and false. Then she addressed the December 1989 incident, the one with the police report and the bleeding lip, and Lieutenant McSweeney barely recognizing her face. Madonna said those allegations were false too. Her statement was crystal clear and left no room for interpretation. While we certainly had more than one heated argument during our marriage, Sean has never struck me, tied me up, or physically assaulted me, and any report to the contrary is completely outrageous, malicious, reckless, and false. Let that sink in. The bleeding lip? False. Being bound to a chair for 9 hours? False. The baseball bat? False. Everything, according to Madonna, was false. This wasn't a vague statement about the past being complicated. This wasn't saying that things were exaggerated or taken out of context. This was a complete, categorical denial that any physical abuse had ever occurred. The question everyone immediately asked was why? Why would Madonna do this? Why now? Why come forward after decades of silence to defend a man she divorced over 25 years ago? Some said it was because they'd remained friends. Others suggested Madonna was protecting her own legacy, not wanting to be defined as a victim. Cynics wondered if there was some kind of financial arrangement or mutual benefit. But the simplest explanation might be the strangest one. What if Madonna was telling the truth? What if one of the most documented alleged abuse cases in Hollywood history was actually a fabrication? What if the tabloids had created a monster out of thin air? Fast forward to June 2024. Sean Penn sat down for an interview with the New York Times, and he finally addressed the rumors that had haunted him for nearly 4 decades. The interviewer asked about the abuse allegations, and Penn opened up in ways he never had before. He told a story about dating a woman years after his divorce from Madonna. They'd had a lovely evening together. Everything was perfect. But the next morning she was looking at him like he'd killed her dog. She asked him about hitting Madonna in the head with a baseball bat. Penn said he didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Then he said something that cut through all the rumors with simple logic. Now I think it's fair to say that I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but if I hit Mike Tyson in the head with a baseball bat, he's going to the hospital. The implication was clear. If he'd actually hit Madonna with a bat, there would have been catastrophic injuries, hospitalization, medical records. None of that existed because it never happened. Penn also addressed the SWAT team incident, corroborating the story he'd told before. Madonna called the police worried about guns in the house. He refused to come out because he wanted to finish his breakfast. The police broke windows and stormed in. He ended up in handcuffs. Was it a volatile domestic situation? Absolutely. Was it abuse? Penn said no. And then he said something that revealed where things really stand between him and Madonna now. She's someone I love, not loved. Love, present tense. Penn explained that it's a lot quicker to repair a friendship after divorce if there are not kids involved. He and Madonna had figured out they'd mistaken a good first date for a wedding partner. They were wrong for each other as spouses, but that didn't mean they were wrong for each other as people. Within about a year after the divorce, they'd repaired their friendship, and that friendship has lasted longer than their marriage ever did. In May 2025, Penn appeared on the Louis Theroux podcast and was asked about Madonna calling him the love of her life back in 1991. Penn smiled. He called it very sweet. He confirmed that Madonna has been a good friend for a lot of years. The two have been spotted together multiple times over the past decade. In 2016, Madonna hosted a charity gala for her work in Malawi. Sean Penn was there, bidding on auction items. At one point, Madonna joked that she'd remarry Sean if he bid $150,000 on a particular lot. People there reported she told him, "I'm still in love with you." It could have been a joke, it probably was a joke, but it also revealed something true underneath. Whatever happened in that marriage, whatever darkness existed between them in the late 80s, they'd found their way back to something resembling love, or at least deep affection, respect, friendship. So what do we make of all this? We have police reports that describe violence. We have a lieutenant who saw Madonna's bleeding lip. We have decades of rumors treated as facts. And we have both people involved saying none of it was true. Somebody's lying. But who? Here's where we have to get honest about what we can and cannot know. The December 1988 police report exists. That's not in dispute. Lieutenant McSweeney's statement about barely recognizing Madonna exists. The charges that were filed and then dropped exist. These are facts. But police reports don't always tell the complete story. Witnesses can misinterpret situations, and alleged victims can file complaints in the heat of a moment that don't reflect the full truth of what happened. Madonna's 2015 statement directly contradicts the police report from 1988. So either she lied in 2015 to protect Sean Penn's reputation and career, or the police report was based on incomplete or misunderstood information. There's a third option too. Maybe both things are partially true. Maybe there was a volatile, frightening fight that night. Maybe Madonna was scared enough to run to the police. Maybe she had injuries from the chaos of the situation. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the calculated hours-long physical abuse that the report suggested. Maybe it was a marriage exploding in the worst possible way, fueled by alcohol and jealousy and two personalities that brought out the absolute worst in each other. What we do know for certain is that Sean Penn had a pattern of violence toward other people during this period. He assaulted photographers multiple times. He hung one over a balcony. He punched a film extra. He attacked David Walensky. These aren't allegations. These are documented facts that Penn has never denied. So the question becomes, is it believable that a man with that kind of rage toward strangers would never direct any of it toward his wife? Or is it more believable that Madonna, seeing the man she once loved rebuild his life and career, decided to rewrite history so they could both move forward? There's no way to know which narrative is true. What we can say is this: Penn and Madonna had a toxic, volatile marriage that should have ended long before it did. There was jealousy. There was alcohol abuse. There were heated arguments that got out of control. Whether those arguments crossed the line into physical abuse is something only two people really know. And both of those people are now saying they didn't. We can argue about believing women and taking survivors seriously, which are crucial principles. But we also have to respect when a woman says abuse didn't happen. We can't pick and choose when to believe Madonna based on which narrative fits our preconceived notions. If we believe women when they say they were abused, we have to believe women when they say they weren't. Madonna has made her statement under oath, with legal consequences for perjury. She's been consistent in that statement for nearly a decade now. At some point, we have to accept that maybe we got this one wrong. Or maybe we didn't. Maybe Madonna is protecting a man she still loves in some way. Maybe she's rewriting history because the truth is too painful to admit even to herself. Maybe she just wants everyone to move on. The uncomfortable reality is that we'll never know for sure what happened behind the closed doors of that Malibu mansion. We weren't there. We didn't live through it. All we can do is look at the evidence, listen to the people involved, and accept that some mysteries don't have clean answers. Madonna and Sean Penn's marriage captured everything wild and excessive about the 1980s. It was a collision of two massive egos, two enormous talents, two people who burned so bright together that they were always going to incinerate everything around them. What started with helicopters circling their wedding ended with police breaking down their door. It was never going to be normal. It was never going to be quiet. But was it abusive? That's the question that's haunted both of them for 35 years. The weight of those allegations changed Sean Penn's reputation forever. For decades, he was known as the guy who beat Madonna, whether it was true or not. The rumor became his legacy, and Madonna had to watch the love of her life, or at least one of them, be defined by action she now says never happened. In 2015, she did something about it. She put her name on a legal document and said, "No, it didn't happen. Stop repeating these lies." Some people believed her. Others thought she was just protecting an old friend. The truth, whatever it is, belongs to Madonna and Sean Penn, not to us, not to the tabloids, not to the police reports or the biographies or the decades of speculation. They've both moved on. They've remained friends. They speak well of each other in interviews. They laugh about mistaking a good first date for a wedding partner. They've built separate lives that occasionally intersect with genuine affection. Maybe that's the real story here. Not the violence, whether it happened or didn't. Not the rumors or the police reports. But the fact that two people who were completely wrong for each other as spouses found a way to be right for each other as human beings. Maybe the shocking truth Madonna revealed isn't about what Sean did or didn't do. Maybe it's about forgiveness, about letting go, about refusing to be defined by the worst chapter of your life. Or maybe it's about rewriting history so you can both sleep at night. We'll never know for sure. And maybe that's okay. Some stories don't have endings. They just stop being told.